Hi everybody, how's it all going? Good to see you all here. So I hope everybody is well, and thank you for tuning in to this video, and thank you for tuning into my channel as well. I always really hope and that you enjoy the music that I share. It is always my pleasure to share, and it is always my pleasure to write this music. This is the first time I've ever done a video kind of like this, so I suppose a little apprehensive. Fingers crossed, I hope it goes all okay and that it's received all okay. I'm going to be very open and honest and raw and genuine about a subject which has been a very prominent part of my life, and that is the subject of depression. It's something that I feel more and more open about discussing with others nowadays. If you would have asked me to open up about something like this a few years ago, then absolutely not, no. So nowadays I feel I was quite passionate about sharing my own experiences with it, because I have seen how sharing your own vulnerabilities with others gives others a space and kind of a sense of a permission to open up about their own difficulties and vulnerabilities also, and that really offers a sense of connection with people. And I know that when you do feel in the throes of depression, that sense of disconnection it's ever so prevalent. So to feel more connected, it's a nice feeling. So yes, it is my hope that by sharing this, also it's going to be cathartic for myself as well. It always is cathartic when I share about this sort of stuff. It's my hope that it could maybe help somebody to feel a bit more connected also, and to help you know that you are absolutely not alone in something like this. I am somebody who walks with you if you are dealing with something like depression and if you are struggling, and I will probably always be on this journey with you, and we'll do our best to get through this together. And I also want to say that if you are struggling with something like this, then hand on heart from myself to you, I think that you are an incredibly strong person to be able to go about your day-to-day life with a sense of depression or maybe anxiety or anything like that. I think you are incredibly strong. So yes, please take that to your heart. Okay, so first of all, I want to kind of start with regards to my family history. So my family on my mother's side has been plagued with depression. There's been a number of suicides on my mother's side of the family. My grandfather, he was diagnosed with manic depression. He underwent electric shock therapy. This was many years ago. And I've also got a sibling and cousins who really struggle with depression and anxiety, and ADHD also. So this is something that's a very big part of not just my life but my family's life. So it's been around me for many years, and it's something that we discuss a lot within our family nowadays. And taking all of that into account, I'm actually seeing a doctor at the moment, and we're having some long conversations, and we've come to the conclusion that my depression that I kind of deal with, it's not so much environmental or circumstantial. It's more so genetically or biologically. I'm more biologically or genetically inclined to have this disposition, which is a little bit of a bummer, to be honest. But then on the other hand, it's really helped me to practice the art of acceptance, and to know that no matter really how hard I try, that I can just keep doing my best, and that's it. But if I'm going to have a bad day or a bad period, then there's no use in beating myself up about it. And so yes, acceptance is a major key here. And I suppose everybody has I suppose everybody has some kind of experience with something like depression, and I think that it's a very, very, very complicated subject. Not just depression, but mental health in general is a very complicated subject, and there is no one size fits all for a diagnosis or for a cure or anything like that. And bear in mind, I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm just kind of talking about my own experiences with myself and with talking with others as well. That yes, this is a vastly difficult and complicated subject, and we are all different. I think there's people that can deal with depression on maybe for a period of time in their lives, and then they kind of get through it. And then there's other people where it's maybe a bit more chronic and maybe a bit more long-lasting. So the diagnosis that my doctor has kind of given me is dysthymia, which is kind of persistent depressive disorder, which is basically a high-functioning type of depression where I can basically go about my day-to-day life, and I hold down a job, and I have a good social life and everything, but things are generally quite difficult the vast majority of the time. The best way that I can describe is if you've kind of got like a baseline here, this is kind of what you could say a normal, healthy baseline is for somebody who's functioning well. Their mood is pretty good, they're pretty calm, and here would be kind of maybe rock bottom of depression, and I kind of maybe function around about here. So I'm kind of, it's difficult. It's difficult at times, and as I said, there's kind of this feeling of everlasting, maybe kind of background despair and emptiness that I deal with quite a lot of the time, and it's kind of always there, and it's very heavy, but I'm able to kind of go about my day-to-day life. I a lot of the time is spent on autopilot, to be honest, and I just kind of muddle my way through a lot of the time. And I suppose my earliest memory of something like this could be when I was in my teens, maybe mid-teens, early teens, mid-teens, and I can remember lying on my bed with that feeling of emptiness and kind of despair, and just thinking to myself like, oh my God, like this is so difficult. Why is everything so difficult? Why is everything so heavy? Like, is this normal? And that feeling of kind of background despair, of emptiness, has it's followed me through for a number of years, and I think in my early 20s I kind of tried to take a bit of responsibility for all of this, and I decided to really try and help myself by going out and buying just every single self-help book or maybe spiritual book that you can think of, and I just devoured all of these books and just tried to learn how to be happy. And it was wonderful to learn a lot of this wisdom and knowledge and everything, but nothing ever really quite hit the mark, and I still kind of had this disposition of kind of emptiness and despair. In my mid-20s, I decided to go to counselling or therapy for the first time, and I had a wonderful counsellor, and we both discussed a lot about my early childhood and all of the kind of the difficult memories and difficult periods and stuff like that. So it feels like we overturned pretty much as much as I can really think of. Yet still that feeling is kind of was always still there. So it's quite frustrating to deal with what you think is kind of everything that could contribute to something like this, but to still feel these feelings of emptiness. So towards my late 20s, I decided to speak to a doctor, and I went on to some medication. And my first type of medication that I tried was sertraline or Zoloft. And this was the first time that the best way I can describe, this was the first time that my baseline went from here up to here, so that I was kind of in that feeling of emptiness and despair. It was very, very, very diminished, and I was able to think much more clearly and to be able to go about my day in a much better headspace, emotionally, physically. It just made a world of a difference, going on to it was a low level of low dosage of sertraline at the time. So medication really did help a lot, and I've made the mistake of many times of thinking that I don't need to be on any kind of medication, so I come off it, and then I tend to kind of spiral back down to kind of around about here, and it's I've come to kind of the acceptance and the conclusion that medication is going to be a staple part of my life, and if I am on medication for the rest of my life, then so be it. I've come to that acceptance now, and one of the things that I was worried about with the medication was that it would hinder my creativity, but that's absolutely not the case whatsoever. If anything, it really helps me to put me into a better mindset to be able to create. And I know that kind of everybody has their own opinions about the subject of medication. That's absolutely fine. That's okay. I know that for me, this is something that is going to have to be that I'm going to have to really consider taking medication for a long period of time, I think. So as I say this now, I'm actually in the process of transitioning to a different type of medication called venlafaxine, and a mood stabilizer also. And I'm in this kind of really sticky, messy transition period where I don't really know if it's working or not, but I really do want it to work, because to come back to that stability is it's really nice. It's really nice to kind of be there. So I think that also, as well as the medication, there are a number of things that I try to do in my day-to-day life, which really contributes to my mental health. And it's almost like a checklist of boxes that I have to tick in my day-to-day life to maintain my good mental health. And of course, medication is at the center of all of this. Cognitive behavioral therapy, where I write down my negative thoughts and pick out the distortions and then come to a more positive or a more actual way of seeing situations. Meditation has been wonderful, and mindfulness. I try to incorporate this in my day-to-day life, and I've had some wonderful experiences with meditation. I think communicating as well with the people closest around me, so my family and my close friends, and generally people who I know really well. I'm extremely open to them, and I feel so wonderfully blessed to be able to be open with them, and for them to be understanding, and for them to hold a space where it gives me permission to be open. And communicating this and talking about this subject with people has been, it's been such a positive. And I really recommend to anybody that's listening that if you feel that you can talk to anybody about what you're struggling with, then it really does help. And I talk with a therapist every now and again now, and he is absolutely wonderful. I've kind of hit the jackpot with my therapist because he's so very understanding, and I can dip in and dip out with sessions with him whenever it is needed. And also all of the other kind of common things that you can do to help with your mental health. So I like to do a lot of walking. I like to try my best to eat healthy and exercise, at maintaining a good social life. All of these things, I feel that I'm maybe quite sensitive to, that I do need to kind of adhere to this kind of this ticking off the boxes of all of these things that can help me with my mental health on a day-to-day basis. So I suppose that this brings me to the music, because creating music is also another wonderful form of therapy for myself. And I honestly think that, from my own experience, that the trials and tribulations and the struggles in which we go through in our lives, they can complement us in a unique way. And that could be maybe through a creative way. It could give you strength to do something or be a certain kind of person. And I feel that going through these difficulties with depression has helped me to be able to create in a way that feels very special to me. I think that going through trials and tribulations can offer a unique depth to your creativity that nobody else in the world can replicate. So we all have our own individual ways of creating, and it's all unique. And going through difficult periods, it can deepen that creativity output, in my humble opinion. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. And this has been the case for myself. And discovering ambient music and the creative process of creating ambient music, I absolutely love it. So I'm coming up to about been creating ambient music for about 10 years now or so, and it's still such a wonderful genre of music to be able to create and to be able to listen back to as well. And the way in which I create the music that I do, I use a loop station, and I layer and record different textures and tones and maybe little melodies of music, and it all goes into this loop station, and I loop it and I layer it, and it kind of builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until it takes on like a life of its own. And this is the real beauty that I feel of this creative process. I'm able to kind of sit back at the end of creating and listen back to it, and it feels like I haven't wrote any type of music, that it's kind of just come through me, and that allows me to detach from maybe an ego perspective, and to relax into the music. And it has certainly helped me to be aware of kind of what's going on within me. So, for example, if I'm having a bad day and like say some really heavy feelings going on within me, it's wonderful to create a piece of music and then to kind of sit back and let the music kind of just wash over me and wash over these strong and difficult emotions, and to just not push these emotions away, but to just be there with the music, with the emotions. And it's very calming. And I've been really lucky to be able to do music sessions here in South Korea. So yes, I live in South Korea, and I've been doing ambient music sessions over this past year where I create this type of music, and we use this time to kind of relax, and there's no pressure to feel a certain way, and the music is kind of like a mechanism where it helps people to let go and to relax and to feel whatever they need to feel, and to have maybe a quiet, intimate discussion about maybe some stress or anything that's going on within their lives. And I feel so wonderfully blessed to be able to have these sessions, and it's wonderful. And creating this music has really opened up so many doors for me in not just in kind of in the outside world, but within myself as well, to come to a place of peace, or trying to attain an ongoing maybe state of peace. So yeah. So so if you're still here, thank you for listening to me speak. What I'd really like to do now is, after I've finished talking, I'd love to play a piece of music for you. And as I said, as I play this piece of music, we can just be here together. We can just let the music wash over us, and feel however you need to feel. And yeah, we can just do this together. Okay, let's do it.